Hi, social dayers. I am Jade Housted. I can see myself twice. This is really weird. I'm Jade Housted, Social Days social media manager. Please find me on LinkedIn. So up next, we have David Taylor with his session, Make Your Business Fit for a Digital World. Like, this world is crazy. And if you're not on digital, you're doing something wrong. So head over to David's session in the app, head over to discuss, and you can ask David all your questions about your business, any burning questions you have about anyone else's business, and I'll be back after the session to make sure that he answers them all. AV team, play the video.
Good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be here on Social Day and really looking forward to presenting a half hour on how on earth you make a business fit for this strange and crazy world which everyone has been talking about over the last 2 days at Social Day. So my name is David Taylor. I've had a long track record working within communications. I'm an author, I'm a trainer, and most recently, I am actually working with the Southeast LEP to create a digital strategy to help businesses right across the Southeast, and that's 173,000 businesses. So that should keep me fairly busy. But in terms of today, there are 4 key challenges as I see it. We've got a potential no-deal Brexit coming up. That could be really, really good for the country, or it could be really, really bad. We don't know. We've also got increasing use of artificial intelligence. Again, you'd have heard from that from other speakers on Social Day, but that's clearly going to have a massive impact in lots and lots of businesses. We then got climate change. Climate change must be factored in to any business plan now because it's all encompassing. Whether offices get too hot or people can't get into work, or you've got youngsters who don't want to work for companies who are wrecking the planet, it's going to have a big impact. And then, of course, we've had COVID-19. So all the laggards, all the old people who say, oh, we don't like digital, we don't want people to do homeworking, we don't want this and we don't want that. Well, they've been forced to have to adapt. But those 4 challenges are massive. And that's aside from all the other challenges that people have anyway. So there is no business as usual. It's rubbish when people say, yeah, my business is fine. I know my customers. I know exactly what I'm doing. But business as usual doesn't exist anymore. You can't rest on your laurels and think, yeah, we're okay, because we're in a very, very fast changing world. And the digital divide is getting wider than ever. Lloyd's Digital Business Index last year did a huge survey of businesses right across the UK. And what they found is that the businesses who are embracing digital practices were forging ahead, and those that weren't were falling further and further and further behind. Now, this is potentially a massive problem for the UK. Whilst we've had some brilliant speakers and some ideas on Social Day, I do feel that in a way, we're all in a little bit of a bubble. We all understand social media. We all understand digital. Yet there are literally millions of people and hundreds of thousands of businesses who really don't have a clue and don't intend to have a clue. And that's a really, really big challenge, and hence why I've tried to work with a Digital Skills Partnership in the Southeast to do something about this. So then we're looking at digital pain. And sometimes if I'm talking to clients, if they don't really want to change, then we start looking a little bit at their pain, because every business has pain. It might be falling sales. They might not know where they get a return on their investment from their sales and marketing. They have no idea which channel to use. They can't reach out to new, diverse, and increasingly that means millennial and Zoomer audiences. They're not very good at dealing with younger members of staff. They can't and won't have enough content to be able to power all their channels. The brand looks fairly vague, and they don't really know how to retain control over their brand. They're completely overwhelmed by data. All this technology and all the competitors means that they're snapping at their heels and they're getting very, very worried. And ultimately, they're losing the ability to be able to talk to new customers going forward. Now, these 10 pain points, most organizations will have at least one of them. And they're a really good way of focusing the mind, especially of the doubters in this world who say, oh, well, no, we're fine. So people are changing. So there are now 6 different generations living in the UK. And really, it's about having a strategy of communications, which means that you can engage with all your stakeholder audiences. I don't just mean customers. I mean everyone that you as an organization needs to engage with. So we've got the 6 generations. As we go round this wheel, then we go from long form, written, traditional content and communications right through to Gen Alpha, who are completely online and live online and expect to see an online world. 1980 is the cutoff year. On the right-hand side, I would say anyone born before 1980, that includes me, of course, with my grey hair, it means that we are traditional communicators. But again, you can't make an assumption. I've seen in another talk at Social Day, you've got large amounts of engagement on social media from baby boomers. But on the other side, you've got those born after 1980 who are digital natives. And for this group, engagement is the key. It's all about engagement. So this is a major challenge then, understanding how to engage with all your stakeholder audiences in the way that they wish to be engaged with. So if someone expects to have a phone call and written information sent to them, that's what you need to do. There's no point saying, oh, WhatsApp us, if they don't know what WhatsApp is. And in the same way, content is then evolving. This thing that we call content, what is it? Where is it? How does it come about? Is it written content? Clearly, written content is going to work for older generations, but we know that millennials and Zoomers don't like reading. They just don't enjoy it. So if you create lots of written content, you know that a younger audience simply is not going to engage with it. Therefore, do you start to create more infographics? Do you start creating a lot more video? Video, there is no barrier to entry. Again, as an older generation, I remember I grew up, my first job was on a manual typewriter at a newspaper. But back then, it was impossible for a small business to create and use video. There is now no barrier. You've got live video. You've got all sorts of social media video. It helps so many elements of a business. Still, so many businesses aren't using any video. And then, of course, you've got emojis. gamification and filters, all these wonderful things that other presenters have been talking about in Social Day. They are the new narrative. They are the new way of engaging with younger audiences. So again, if you're an older business owner and your customers are very young, you need to start thinking about ways you can engage with them properly. That often means, dare I say, hiring someone of a younger age who can actually communicate in that same language, because it is a different language. I should know, I'm a father of two boys, one 14 and one 12. So I know what it's like. I'm dealing with Zoomers every day. But you've got so many channels, and there are so many outcomes. Businesses, it's hilarious. I go into a business or you do a talk presentation. Remember when the live presentations, when you actually had a physical audience, and I'd ask people to put their hands up. Who here's got using social media for business? Everyone stuck their hands up. Yeah, me, I'm doing really well. Okay, keep your hand up if you know exactly why you're using it. Oh, half the hands are coming down. I said, okay, keep your hand up still if you've got defined KPIs for why you're using those channels, which you're measuring against original business objectives, and everyone has their hand down by the end of it. So basically, you're all just playing at it. But there are so many channels, there are so many outcomes that a business, any business, needs to understand why they're using them. And to complicate it further, within a business, you've got lots of human beings, lots of people with their own digital footprints, and some of them may have personal outcomes for using social media. So you need to have a multi-layered approach to using social media. So with all of this in mind, this crazy changing world we're in, some may call it a VUCA world, volatile, unpredictable, chaotic, and anarchic. You've got all these different people and different channels, and some people are old school and some people are new, and some people are Snapchatting and some people want to handwrite letters still. You think, my God, what on earth do I do as a business to try and cope and thrive in this new environment? Well, I have the answer. What we're looking at then is ways of dealing with either specific business goals. This is where I'm putting a business coach hat on. This isn't about social media. It's not about digital. It's about business. What is a business's goals? Any goal, any business must have a proper goal. But equally, I do recognize that lots of businesses don't have any business goals. It's a little bit nebulous. But what they do have is pain. They have pain points. So what we need to do over the next 10 minutes or so is find a simpler way of either achieving those business goals or some way relieving the pain, because no one likes to be in pain. So number one, you need to have a proper digital focused business plan. So this is where we're blending business communications and business management. So every business needs to have a proper plan of what they're doing, who their customers are, where their customers are going to be, who their staff are, where the staff are going to be, what resources they've got, what's the long-term plan for the business, what challenges can they see, what the competitors are doing, what's the state of their digital footprint, i.e. their online presence, their website, their social media channels. Are there channels they shouldn't be on? Are there channels they should be on? Are there channels that they need to think about in the future? All of this comes in to the business planning step. And this is the root of everything. Again, so many people say, oh, I want to use social media. And I say to them, I don't care about social media. I care about your business. Let's think about your business first. And then once we've established what your business is and what it's trying to do and your customers are, then let's look at what we can do in terms of social media. Social media is literally like the icing on a cake, but the cake itself is the business and the business plan. Equally, though, it's about being creative, harnessing your resources, and having a positive, outward-looking culture within the business. We're talking about brand ambassadors. We're talking about change makers. We're talking about the value of human capital. We're talking about innovation. We're talking about breaking barriers and doing things in a new way. And that's something that small business owners are really good at doing. But the fact remains, if we are living in a vastly strange and very ever-changing world, then we need to be flexible, creative, and adaptive. And we want people who are change makers. So many of you listening may well be community managers, and you may be struggling because the people you are working with or for are dinosaurs and they don't get it. They're not enabling new ways of thinking. And it's about harnessing brand ambassadors both inside and outside of an organization. And those brand ambassadors play a major role in how communications and that brand is built. But it is all about creativity and doing things in a different way. Why? As I said before, because we are living in a fast changing world where there is no more business as usual. What you really don't want is a company where everyone is content with business as usual, because they are more likely than not to go down the pan or become uncompetitive. Then we look at content. Now, we've seen some brilliant speakers talking about amazing content, and I take my hats off. Again, mostly a younger generation who are so good at creating content. The fact remains, any business needs to start thinking and acting more like a broadcaster or a publisher. You need a deep reservoir of content. That content, though, can come from a number of different sources. It does not have to come from you and you alone. It could come internally, externally, from your customers. It could also even come from employees. There is now this new notion of what's called employee-generated content, where people are actively encouraged to become part of the marketing team, even though they are not marketers. And I've actually worked with a company called Brightest Bulb, where they train people within companies to create employee-generated video, which is a fantastic step forward. And if you've got a company of, let's say, 200 or 300 employees, even if only 2% of them are willing to do this, that's 6 people who could be creating content. And if we take this to its logical conclusion, what we're talking about here is potentially creating what I would term internal newsrooms. This is where you are replicating the actual newsroom model, but inside your own business. And it could be that the community manager or the marketing manager or the PR director is effectively the editor, but then they have a team of people internally, and they don't have to be marketers and they don't have to be social media people. But what you're doing comes back to the creativity aspect. You are harnessing all the resources of that firm to create as much decent, engaging content that you need to power all those channels, whether it's your website, social media, internal, and of course, never ever forget traditional, because traditional is still absolutely vital, and you forget it at your peril. We've then got the whole concept of being social. And again, this is multi-layered. It's not just, oh, we have a marketing team or we have a PR agency. In my view, a truly social business should have as many people within that business being actively social as possible. So you're looking at a multi-layered social media strategy, which includes the social media profiles of your staff. Particularly, I'm thinking around LinkedIn, and I'm also thinking around Twitter. So a corporate LinkedIn strategy is really important. That's not a marketing strategy or a sales strategy. It's actively a LinkedIn corporate strategy. As an aside, some of you may be interested to know that Alan Partridge, he of TV fame, Steve Coogan has created a fake LinkedIn profile for Alan Partridge. So do have a look at that. It's absolutely hilarious. But community management, this is the whole aspect of how you manage your channels at a corporate and an individual employee level. And that needs to be done in a professional manner. You need to be looking at all the dashboards and all the ways of looking at the channels and managing all the channels on the move. You've got any business now will have 3 or 4 different channels to manage. And you've obviously had Content Cal. They've been speaking at this event. They're a great way of trying to bring some of the content together in one place. Many social media managers will be using dashboards and apps and programs such as this. But the fact is that if you are going to be a truly digital and social business, you need to be multi-channel proficient. You need to be having as many people within the organization who are actively engaging on social media channels. And within that, you obviously need to have comprehensive, proactive social media guidelines. So clearly you don't want to let people loose on social and say, yeah, do whatever you do. But on the other end of the scale, you don't want to be so draconian that, like some London banks, when someone joins the firm, they have to surrender their password to their LinkedIn profile and it gets rewritten by the marketing team. So there needs to be a safe environment, a productive environment, a creative environment where as many people can be managing the channels. And as a final aside on this, that includes the boss. It includes the senior management team. It includes the board. Why? Because they are at the top of the brand ambassador pyramid. Next, we've got digital advertising. Digital advertising is a little bit like, the analogy I would draw is like car servicing. If you've got a modern car, I don't expect any of you to be able to service your car. However, you should understand how a car works and roughly what the costs are and what is involved in servicing the car. So if you do take it in, you won't get ripped off and you'll get the result you needed. Exactly the same goes for digital advertising. If, as a business owner must understand how modern advertising works, because it is an incredibly useful way of reaching out to new, inclusive, and diverse audiences. But if you don't understand it, and believe me, I've worked with lots of MDs and lots of CEOs who don't have the foggiest. They actually delegate everything down to an outside agency or a marketing team, but they themselves are in the dark. The fact is, business owners do need to understand exactly how digital advertising works. one good place to start would be obviously looking at the schedule on Social Day. But absolutely, digital advertising is a brilliant way of reaching out to new audiences, strengthening the brand, or ultimately even doing some product research. And then finally, it's getting your head around data. We live in a data-driven world. Everything is powered by data, algorithms, AI. Any business, even a micro business of one person, is still going to be generating lots of data. So there are two things to think about here. So firstly, is your data secure? Are all your systems secure? Website, cloud-based server, emails, devices, are they all secure? And then secondly, what on earth are you doing with all the data? It's all the data that you yourself generate within your business, but then it's all the data around you. So hashtag Social Day 20. If someone were wanting to understand what the conversation was in the UK around social media on this day, then is a brilliant place to go. You will get valuable data from that hashtag. Hashtags are a brilliant way of gathering data, but then there are also many, many other ways. So how do you synthesize that data? How do you use that data effectively in order to build your business? So 3 key takeaways for me. So number 1, you've got to innovate. We live in a changing, unpredictable world. Nothing stays the same, and the pace of change is only speeding up. So you've got to innovate. Secondly, you've got to educate yourself. You've got to educate your team. And in many ways, you may even have to educate your customers, your clients, your suppliers, your stakeholders as to new ways of operating and communicating. And then finally, it's all about relating. If you're a business owner or you're people within a business, you have to relate internally and externally. Internally, you have to relate with the people within your business so that you can get the most out of them. Externally, it's about relating to your customers and your stakeholders. What do they want? Where are they? How will you reach them? And how will you give them what they want? That's all for me today. Thank you very much for listening. I have a whole range of resources. I've got a free health check, which can be done on a business. I've also got free self-help videos. I did 30 Facebook Lives over lockdown. Nothing like keeping yourself busy during coronavirus. I have a complete e-learning program, and I'm always happy to do business consultancy and any communications advice. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you found this talk edifying, hopefully not too scary, but what I'd like to think it does is brings together all the amazing strands which Social Day has done so well at bringing together. So thank you very much for listening. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of this fantastic conference, and I look forward to answering your questions over the next couple of hours.
Thank you so much for your session.
Not
you hear
a
me
problem
all right?
at all. Yes, I can.
You can. Good. So we just have a few questions that have come in. So I think someone might have missed the start, but how has coronavirus changed social for businesses? Do you think it's going to propel this forward? Are people using them more?
I think what would be fair to say, Jade, is that the doubters, the people who couldn't be bothered with social media and thought it was a load of rubbish, have been forced to confront the fact that they're going to have to talk to their customers and clients digitally. And the way to do that is through social media. So I think the people who get it, a lot of the people at Social Day, the presenters and the people listening, will be up on it, and they will be using social media. The people who haven't would probably been metaphorically punched in the face and said, now you understand why you've got to use digital and social.
Yeah. I was at the pub actually the other day, and I think it was just as coronavirus was starting, and I goes to this man, I was like, you need to get online, like your shop's going to be closed for months, like you need to be on social. No, don't need that. Well, I bet he wishes he'd carried on that conversation, because I don't know what would happen to his business, you know? So many businesses online, so many people are so like, I don't need it. You do need it.
Absolutely. I think that, Jade, I've spent the last 10 years educating businesses about new ways of communicating. And I would say that 80% of businesses still didn't want to know. And it's really, really shocking. And I said that the survey which has come out shows that there's still millions of businesses. I think you'd be amazed. I think any of the presenters at Social Day would be horrified if they went into your average business in the UK and they realize they don't even understand what Google Analytics is. No. They don't even know what Facebook does. And you think, my God, but it's been around for 10 years. But people don't know.
Yeah, honestly, whenever I go out, if I'm like going anywhere, I always jump on Facebook or Google to like find information on the business, like their opening hours, a telephone number. Like it's not on there. Like, are these people, like, do they not own a phone? Are they oblivious to advertising their business? But
no one likes change.
Sorry. No, they don't.
No one likes change.
Although I was a fan of lockdown, so it was nice and relaxing. But what do you think the solution is to getting businesses digital, and why do you think we're so slow?
That's a really good question. I think the problem lies with people like me. So I am nearly a 51-year-old business owner living in the home counties. And there are hundreds of thousands of people like me who don't want to change and don't want to confront the fact that they're going to have to re-engineer their business. It's a hassle. It's a big hassle. And it's like, I can't be asked. I can't be bothered. And hopefully I'll just about manage to eke things out, and hopefully things will go away. I'll stick my head in the sand. Now, clearly, I personally haven't done that, but it's my contemporaries. And really, Jade, it is not really about social media. It's about business. And it's about how do you run a business in the modern world. Now, running a business in the modern world is very different from running a business in the old pre-digital world. But lots of company owners haven't adapted and won't adapt, but they'll have lots of people of your age coming in with great ideas, and they just stamp on their ideas. No, we don't need that. So I think the problem is stubborn men in their 50s who don't want to change.
Yeah, I do agree with that, like the man in the pub. So Michelle has said, you please explain a little more about what you meant with the internal newsroom.
So in a newsroom, you have an editor, and the editor, their role is to ensure all the content goes into that newspaper, or it goes onto the TV program in a correct order and it's a sufficient quality. But then what they have is a number of what I would call reporters. And the reporter's job is to go out and gather information, news, and ideas, which they bring back to the news editor. So within a company, let's say there are 20 people in the company, you have a marketing manager, and the marketing manager has to do everything at the moment. But if there were 3 or 4 people who wanted to be brand ambassadors, and they were up for coming up with new ideas and helping create some content and help engage with the corporate social media profiles, then they could act as the reporters. So they could have a weekly news meeting where they would look at what's going on in the next week, what's going on the channels, what ideas they've got. And therefore, the marketing manager goes from being absolutely stressed because he or she has to do everything to, this is brilliant. I've got 3 or 4 people who are really proactive, really up for it. And therefore, we're creating much more content, much more engagement. And hopefully those 3 or 4 people who are brand ambassadors then means that the other 16 laggards can get with the program. And the ideal is that you end up with 20 brand ambassadors all working together. So what you're merely doing is replicating what happens in newspapers. Well, for what newspapers are left anyway, newspapers up and down the country.
Nice. I hope that answered your question, Michelle. That's all for questions. Just another thank you, David. That was very insightful. And off now for a coffee break. Let's have a look who we've got this afternoon.